And we're live.
Anybody else like to dance to the intro music? I do.
It does get things a little pumped up. We are coming to you live from our van that is parked in Pensacola, Florida at the Big Lagoon State Park.
Yeah, we are back to van life. If you follow us personally, I'm Cherie,
And I'm Chris.
and we are co-founders of the Mobile Internet Resource Center, which we founded 10 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Crazy.
Totally crazy.
But we've been full-time nomads since 2006, and we split our time between a boat and an RV, currently in van life mode as we head across country.
Yeah. And this live broadcast that you're seeing is for the channel, the Mobile Internet Resource Channel, that we started doing. We do a lot of pre-produced news stories and longer tutorials and all sorts of other content. But over the past year, we've been doing these MIRC lives to kind of make things a little bit more interactive, to let people have a chance to ask questions, and just also to have a more fun way to be interactive. So we've gotten some good feedback on this. So if you're enjoying this MIRC live, we're doing kind of a special one for December.
Right. So go look back. We did several episodes this year. There's some great topics we covered. This one is a geek out session. So we're going to be introducing you to a lot of our geeky team members who you see on some of our videos. And there's our core team. We don't do this on our own. In fact, we try not to do much of this on our own anymore. And we work as a team to do this. So this is a team geek out session. So why don't we bring the team on?
Okay, let's do this. Boom. And Andy made it just in time.
Yes.
Awesome. So this is
our core team.
5 out of 8. So we've got a big chunk of the MIRC team here on camera for the first time ever on a live broadcast.
Yes. So you know us. Enough about us. Andy McNabb, why don't you start off and tell us a bit about yourself? You've now been with MIRC for going on, I don't know, almost as long as MIRC's been around. Close to.
Yeah, I think I joined the team in 2017.
Yeah.
You were one of our first members before that.
No, that was the other Andy.
Oh, the other Andy. Okay, right.
That was the other Andy. Yeah.
Okay.
It's easy to confuse us. Yeah, we were my family. I've got a wife and 3 kids. We were looking to get on the road full time in a Class A RV back in 2017. We'd started planning before that, and so we found MIRC and learned so much there and got our internet set up because we had to homeschool our kids and stuff like that. And then there was a call out on the Facebook group asking for help, and I was like, well, I'm not doing anything right now. Why don't I send them an email, and the rest is history. So
yes, and Andy's been with us, and he's been fantastic. You've probably seen a lot of his videos, and he's just doing some great stuff, and he is what has allowed us to
not die
stress so much.
There was a point where MIRC had gotten more than Cherie and I could handle, and the everything was on top of us, and we ended up putting it, basically saying, going to the team and saying, are we all in? Do we all want to take, make this a team effort? And so much of our team stepped up and just did some awesome work that MIRC has been able to continue growing and thriving and bringing great content to everyone out there.
Yep. And another team member who is not on camera right now is Andy's life partner, Susie. She is amazing. And she is what we call our cat herder. She's our project manager. So she works behind the scenes when we have a new story that comes up. She is making sure that the team is staying on top of all of the components that have to happen to put that story together and update all of our content over at the Mobile Internet Resource Center website, our Gear Center entries, our guides, and everything else. So she helps us make sure we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. So she's an important part of our team as well.
Because things change all the time, and when things change, there's a lot to update. So.
All right, so the next team member to join was other Andy.
Yes, there's the other Andy. And there we go. This Andy was one of our very first members, and then we managed to suck him in.
Yeah. So it was. So it's been. 2014 when I first joined the Mobile Internet Resource Center, and that was back in the days of the grandfathered, what became the grandfathered unlimited data plan, and it's been quite a ride along the way. It shortly after that, I went full time, so we've been full time RVing for a little over 8 years now. And so I joined because I knew we were going to be doing that, and I was planning and and I also do a lot of remote work. I work full time outside of this as an engineer, and so I utilize the tools and things that I was learning from MIRC to apply to my business, or to go out and work remotely and bringing hotspots and the like. And so it was because for me it was really scary to go out on the road and be like, I don't have like cable. I don't, how am I supposed to do my job? And so, so it's one thing that Mark has just really instilled in me, is just the confidence to be able to just go out and just travel and live the life that I want to live, and bring work along, is basically
Yeah.
what it ends up being. So,
Yeah, so we brought you on the team at the start of COVID. Is when you came
yeah,
on. You basically approached us and said that you had you've been a member for a while, and we had called for like more geek help. And he has a background in
yeah,
RF engineering, so he's become our
yeah,
antenna guru.
He actually dissects antennas for us, and we'll put them with people who are not members in the member areas on our forums. We've got Andy's Antenna Lab, where he takes apart cellular antennas and Wi-Fi antennas and all sorts of antennas, and tears them down and explains like why one antenna might work better than another, and then he backs it up with some testing. So he kind of does some really fun and geek dives for our members.
And helps our members determine what antenna is going to work best for them for their unique circumstances.
Yeah.
So he's been just an amazing part of our team. And I guess he enjoyed it so much because his wife decided she wanted to join our team as well. Wendy is actually
yeah.
moderating the chat room during this live video, but she's kind of become our standardization expert. So she goes through all of our geeky content and makes sure that we're being consistent in the way we present information, that things are in the same order, that and then she does a lot of our content backing up and customer service as well. So you won't see Wendy much on camera or things like that here on the YouTube channel, but she's an essential part of our team as well. So thank you, Wendy, for being here in the chat room, fielding questions and helping folks
Yes,
out
thank
during
you.
this.
Thank you, Wendy. Indeed, we seem to have a thing for like hiring couples. It's great for like nomadic couples because we live in small boxes together. We kind of end up sharing a brain and working so close. So, it's been a thing. It's like, we're couples working together. And
All
next
right.
up is the next geek we've hired, and our most recent hire at
Well,
Merck.
yeah, he's been with. We just were determining it's coming on 3 years since you joined the Merck
Three
team, right?
coming up on 3 years.
3 years.
You're
Yep.
muted.
Yep.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep. There you go.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I joined Merck about 3 years ago. I've been a member since 2000. Actually, I think 2016 I may have become a member of Merck. Getting ready to go on the road, and I've been on the road since 2017, so a little over 7 years. And I still travel full time. I've divided my time between the fifth wheel that I'm in right now, and I have a truck camper, and you've probably seen me in both on the videos. I've taken over Starlink, kind of giving Chris a little bit of a break from that, and Peplink knowledge, but he's definitely he's still got me beat on there. So, but
it was the story of how we ended up finding Dan was like 3 years ago at Escapers Bash. Is we were going to Bash because Dan was doing so much great stuff covering Starlink in forums online. It was like,
And it would just he's an integral part of the Escapers community,
right,
which is a community of working aged RVers. And we just saw how helpful he was answering mobile internet questions in those things. So we knew we needed someone else to come on for us to be able
at a
to step
geek
back from full
level.
time.
Yeah.
And we were going to Bash that year really to recruit him. And he came up to us and basically said, "So I hear you guys are looking for somebody." Like,
And it's like, perfect
perfect.
match. There we are. So he's become our Starlink go-to. Because SpaceX, they, everything at SpaceX is subject to change with a tweet, and they usually don't do things in a sensible manner on a sensible schedule. So random change comes out, and we've got to update tons of Starlink content and make heads or tails of it all. And Dan gets to be the guy who dives in now, and he loves it. And he's played with and tested every possible Starlink piece of gear, and
He's also super knowledgeable on routers and antennas. You'll find our entire team. We have a lot of crossover in the topics that we all have our personal, topics on. We have another team member that you don't see on camera tonight. This is Jen Neely. She is on our videos quite often. She had a holiday engagement, so she's the one getting to go off and party while the rest of us work.
Hey,
Because
we're partying. I got
she's
rum.
you have a lot of rum in that drink. But she joined our team 2018, I think. So
Yep.
like a year after Andy McNabb did. And Chris and I have known her for years. And as a friend, a fellow,
Met at a campground in Oregon, I think
yep,
first. Yeah,
yep.
way back.
She was introduced to us as party every day or happy hour every day girl. Um, and she's the one out having happy hour right now, not us. So
This is happy hour. We're having happy
we're,
hour.
we're all happy. We're all geeks. We're happy. But she's not technical, but she is so integral to our team. She does writing. She does video production. She gets on camera. She is what helps us keep our content from going too over geeky, so that it's accessible to mortals. So Jen is an integral, special part of our team, and I don't think any of us could do what we do without her eyes on everything as well. So that's our team. So tonight, what we thought we would do is each of us have been talking about what our top stories are of the year that have kind of been what are the major, most impactful stories of the year. And I think Dan's story is the biggest.
Dan, yeah, we're gonna talk about what was Starlink did something really cool that this year. What was it?
Starlink came out with the Starlink Mini this year, which we had been covering for a year before it even came out. So we were eagerly anticipating it. The hardware getting smaller, and it's certainly been a popular option. So I got to test it. I think I was in Oregon this year when it landed with me and got to test it alongside the standard Gen 3. I've had all the standard hardware, the Gen 1, the Gen 2, the Gen 3. Got to test the Mini, and it's turned out to be some pretty neat hardware. And it's nice and small. I know Chris and Cherie, it's actually landed in their hands now. They
Yep.
get to enjoy it on their
It's
but
tiny.
you can it is tiny. It is. There's a picture of me holding up this Gen 3 and the Mini next to each other, and the size is just pretty crazy.
It's a Starlink you can carry with you in a backpack and a little USB-C power brick and power it anywhere. And because it has the Wi-Fi router built right into it, it's all you need. But I think one of the things that we've discovered in our testing and playing with the Starlink Mini is you're throwing away so much of its potential performance by relying on its built-in horrible low power, low performance Wi-Fi router. If you use the Ethernet port, it actually becomes a serious contender to equal the full-size Starlink standard.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was surprised when I did that testing back to back with the standard and adding in the Mini to the Peplink router just changed everything. It was amazing. And of course, if you're moving the Starlink further away from you, you're in the trees, you need to move it. Well, that just even makes it worse. So hooking up a secondary router to your Starlink, if you're going to use the Mini on an RV, absolutely use an external router. Now, if you're taking it with you to go hiking, don't worry about it. You're probably not going to need that. If you're using it every day in an RV, absolutely look at the hooking up some sort of external router, and we cover that extensively. The different
Yep.
routers, Peplink, some other options. So that's really the load power usage of the Mini. Also, is Starlink when it first came out, 100 watts. It was 2.4 kilowatts a day to run that first Gen 1 with the was it the black legs? Yeah, the very first one. And then they better with the gray leg version. It was like 60 watts, and then we got down to 50 watts with the Gen 2, then the Gen 3 went back up a little bit, and then the Mini came out, and we're down to like 22, 25 watts with that Mini running on
Yeah.
DC power, and
Which is
that's
a
a
lot
lifesaver.
easier. Yeah, for those who are depending on solar and batteries, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, so we think the Starlink Mini it's basically what we wanted from Starlink from the start, and it is here. It is still, some people think, oh, it is Starlink is the be all end all, and no, it's still like we depend on cellular almost entirely, particularly here out on the East Coast where we like to park under trees. But cellular is still our dominant thing. But Starlink is such a wonderful thing to have in our arsenal, and particularly now with the 50 gigabyte for $50 plan, it's not super expensive to keep some Starlink data around
And if
as our
you're
secondary backup
right,
connection.
and if we're somewhere that Starlink is what we need to depend on, we can always switch to the unlimited temporarily. Because one of the things that Starlink proved themselves again this year is that they are going to continue to change up their data plans and not grandfathering people in. So we saw another price increase. So when Starlink first came out, it was $99 a month for unlimited data when they debuted it. It has had several price increases over the years, and it's now up to $165 a month for their mobile roam plan. And that's getting kind of pricey, where people have to consider if Starlink can be their one and only or if they can supplement with cellular. Whereas if it's a lower cost, you can start looking at it differently and combining cellular plans with it and still keep within a decent budget. But they keep changing the terms as well. And, where you can use it, how you can use it, especially for global travelers and boaters who are going across oceans. So we expect to continue to see Starlink change things up and not grandfathering people in.
No,
So,
there's no grandfathering with
so
Starlink, pretty
that
much.
is one of the reasons why Starlink may not be a reliable long-term solution or an only solution, because if you get reliant on it, you can expect that next month you could be
Well,
paying more.
and just indeed, Starlink is such a natural complement to cellular, and that actually kind of leads us into our next story of the year: is Starlink and cellular crossing streams
Okay.
here. So, the this is a story that we've been covering for a couple of years now. Is direct to cellular satellite services. So Starlink and T-Mobile kind of started a wave with this 2 years ago, and they announced coverage above and beyond, and they're going to have Starlink beamed down to all T-Mobile cell phones in the not too distant future. And well, 2 years later, we're kind of getting there. But the thing that people have been very confused by these direct to cellular services is it's a secondary payload that is riding on top of a small subset of Starlink satellites, not Starlink service. But it is still pretty exciting to see satellite connections coming to typical regular phones that will give you coverage in the places that nomads go. The other big catch, this is super slow service. People think, oh, Starlink, this is
I'm
fast.
getting Starlink on my phone.
I'm going to be able to stream. I'm going to be able to do everything. I don't need cellular anymore. I'm going to be able to get it straight to all my devices. I don't need a big antenna anymore. Where they're debuting this, and we just did a story yesterday, that or it did come out today.
The video will come out later this
Yeah,
week.
just did a story about the Starlink and T-Mobile finally announced the beta. They're taking signups, and the beta will start in a very limited fashion in early 2025 of direct to cell service. But it is starting with just text messaging, not streaming, not even surfing the web. And over time they will add more, but like right now the satellites are capable of broadcasting 10 megabits per second, which you're like, oh, that's not too bad. I could surf the web and I can do a little bit of streaming on that. Those 10 megabits per second spread out over everybody who is underneath that satellite, which might be covering several states. That's why only text messaging right now.
Right. And we're seeing this come to other applications other than T-Mobile. T-Mobile and Starlink is just one doing it.
Yeah, Apple was first actually with
Apple started this a couple of years ago, doing SOS text messaging for emergency services a couple of years ago on iPhone 14 and above. And just this year with iOS 18, they now allow text messaging to anybody
with an iPhone.
with an iPhone.
iPhone newer than an iPhone 14.
Well, for sending it.
Yeah, sending.
So it's great now. You've got connectivity everywhere that you can keep in touch with loved ones, even when you are not in a cell tower. And that works for any carrier that your iPhone 14 or above is on. And there's some Google Pixel, the newer ones, they're launching
Doing
their
a
own
similar
service.
system.
So this is an emerging new technology for connectivity work, but it is not a replacement for cellular data and internet broadband data.
And
That's
satellite broadband, right?
Yeah.
So it is that is seeing the emergence of satellite technology, both the satellite broadband style and the satellite direct to cell style, is kind of revolutionary for keeping connected. Cellular networks have gotten so good that it is actually pretty surprisingly rare, particularly if you have all the carriers with you. We're almost always have good cellular coverage, but there are times particularly when we're out hiking or out someplace remote on our boat or something like that. That just that confidence that comes from having at least a bit of a data lifeline, even with your basic devices in your pocket, is pretty revolutionary. So I put that down as one of the stories of the
Okay.
year that I covered.
Yep. And I'm going to let Andy M cover the next major story. I think it's more major than the one you have on the list for me.
Okay, so which one here? The Wi-Fi Ranger one here. So let's talk about.
No, not Wi-Fi Ranger.
The
T-Mobile Home Internet.
T-Mobile home internet plan crackdown, and let Andy M jump in on this here.
Yeah, so T-Mobile Home Internet, even though the name says home internet, it's been a hugely popular option for mobile users for a couple of years now since it came out, and that's because even though the terms of service in the fine print for these plans specifically say they're for fixed location use, T-Mobile has not enforced that. Well, earlier this year in the spring, T-Mobile announced they were going to start enforcing that, and also that they were coming out with new plans that were specifically designed for mobile use. Um, they got a lot of blowback on that, on the enforcement, and a lot of the reason for that was because even T-Mobile employees were telling customers that they could use the home internet plan well mobile. Uh, Customer service reps were putting in bogus addresses so that mobile users could get access to the plan. And so far, T-Mobile has been pretty limited in their enforcement of the terms of service for fixed location use. But they did come out with a new set of plans designed for mobile use that are authorized for mobile use. They came out with the Away plan, which is an unlimited plan, basically equivalent to the standard home internet plan, but at a much higher price, $160 a month. And they also have a 200 gigabyte version for $110 a month. So the advantage of these is that you can use them and take them anywhere on T-Mobile's network. We just came out with a story a few days ago that T-Mobile has revamped their home internet plan lineup. The Away plans that are mobile friendly are staying the same, but there's new options for the fixed location home internet. And one of the advantages of following the Mobile Internet Resource Center is that when these plans originally came out, we were telling people this is what the terms of service say, and the T-Mobile and all the carriers, they can and probably will eventually start enforcing those terms of service. So you always got to be aware of what the terms of service say, even when the carrier, for whatever reason, doesn't choose to enforce them.
Which is super annoying, as if you want to do mobile internet legit on the road, if you see these terms of service, but yet you go into any RVing group, and when people ask, well, what internet are you using? And people are just shouting, T-Mobile home internet, T-Mobile box, whatever, at $50 a month. So people go and get it. Their reps are getting incentivized to sign people up and, circumvent the terms and the
Right.
qualifications. And this went on for so long that it became a point where we just had to throw our hands up and say, well, yeah, if T-Mobile's not going to prevent this from happening, why not use it?
Well, and that's always been our advice, is like we always steer people, particularly our members. We explain like these are the terms and these are how things are being enforced by the carriers. And we teach people like you need to understand what the plan actually does, what the plan might be enforced to do, and then often comes down to use it until you lose it. A lot of plans, they work until they don't. Particularly when you get away from some of the stuff that's from the major carriers, is they work until they start cracking down, or they work until the rug gets pulled. So have your backup plan, and then don't be surprised or outraged when the gravy train ends. And we try to make sure our members in particular are really well educated
But
and aware.
we definitely understand the frustration, especially with the T-Mobile home internet, that they just didn't enforce their terms for so long that they've kind of lost some of
They lost a lot of
they lost a
credibility
lot
there.
of credibility. That they should have just been doing it from the beginning and just been clear about it.
Yep.
So the story that I think is significant, at least
Personally, yeah.
to MIRC. So when we launched the Mobile Internet Resource Center 10 years ago, the major product that we covered and was such a ubiquitous offering for mobile internet
In the
for
RV world,
RVers,
yeah,
especially because back then cellular was kind of
very
iffy,
spotty.
and we did have to rely more often on campground Wi-Fi or marina Wi-Fi. Is the Wi-Fi Ranger was like a top pick option for having an external radio that would pick up longer range Wi-Fi signal and bring it
Much
back
longer
in
range.
and bring it in, and then you could hotspot or tether in other cellular options. So we covered Wi-Fi Ranger products for many years. They were a top pick for many years. But in 2000, Winegard purchased them, and didn't really touch the product line for a long time. But this year in 2024, Wi-Fi Ranger has kind of been absorbed completely by Winegard now. They just came out with the new Everest, which is the rooftop, what used to be like a shark fin dome. It now looks
Like a Winegard.
just like a Winegard like Connect T brown dome.
And it's branded Winegard. So the Wi-Fi Ranger brand that was kind of synonymous with RV connectivity for a long time, even though it's been fading for a while, the brand has basically been retired now. And so, you know, the
It's just
news
an
is
end of
kind
an
of an
era.
end of an era. It's like it's not big news like, hey, there's a new product. It's more like this just represents the end of the era of Wi-Fi being a major way that people would connect their RVs or even boats too. I mean, there's a lot of long range Wi-Fi for boats. That was a major industry for a long time. And those products have also just kind of faded away because cellular and satellite have become so much better and so much faster and so much more reliable that long range Wi Fi, of course, we still all rely on Wi Fi as our local network, but long range Wi Fi as WAN has just become not really
Right.
something that big
So
deal
many have
anymore.
found that you go to a marina or a campground that advertises free Wi-Fi. Very few of them have fast enough speeds to
Yeah.
do what most of us need to do online, especially if you're working remotely or wanting to
Yeah.
stream content. Um, Andy Hull, since you were not here for our
Uh,
tech rehearsal, is there any major story of the year you want to cover
yes.
before we move on to
Products
signature?
of the year, notable
We already
products.
have you on for the Waveform Mini, so
Yeah, um, I, yeah, I'm sorry. I came in late on all of this stuff, and I have a lot of thoughts. Stories of the year, and especially in the antenna side of things, I don't really know that there's a whole lot. I mean, we're continuing to see, you know, the carriers rolling out more and more bandwidth in their higher frequencies, and that's definitely impacting. You know what we're seeing in antennas and the like, and so I think you know, definitely as we get into products, I have a lot more to say about that. Um, and maybe a few other things. I see there's Wi-Fi 7 on there too, and I have some thoughts too about
Okay.
antennas and the Wi-Fi connections. So
okay,
um,
Cool.
cool.
yeah.
Cool.
So
Well, we thought the next topic that
yeah.
we'd go over is some of the top products of the year.
And also, I want to also encourage people who are watching along live is you can start queuing up questions into the chat thread, and we'll be able to call on your questions and put them up on screen in a few minutes once we go through the notable products and then our kind of forecasts for the year ahead. So do feel free to queue up questions, and we will answer them live if you are lucky. So
Okay.
do that. But now let's talk about notable products, and let's just continue with Andy. And because
His favorite new antenna.
the waveform.
You actually
Yeah,
replaced
the way
your personal favorite.
Yeah, it's a new favorite of mine. The Waveformer Quad Mini is the Parsec Akita, which is an excellent antenna, also has been a long stay a daily driver for me. And this year I switched over to the Waveform Mini, and the bang for the buck is really just it's hard to turn down, and it's in a small package, an excellent. Uh, Build quality. It's better than the Parsec Falcon when it comes to build quality, and it's really you know, antennas surprise me because, you know, you take a look at them. I guess like we were talking about, if you go on and see my videos, either when I'm taking it apart or the pictures, you take a look at it and it's like, man, there's all this stuff going on, and it should do this and this, and a lot of times antennas perform you know, better or worse than expected. And the Waveform Quad Mini is a panel antenna, so it's a panel. It's not a dome antenna. It's something that when I started testing antennas, that I just found if you can use a panel antenna over a dome antenna, if your RV is is like a fiberglass, isn't metal, so that you could either mount it inside, or Chris and Cherie mount the Akita on the back of their van, and then they bring it down so it's out of the wind stream when they're driving. It's just an excellent it's an excellent antenna in general design, and the quad mini is my new favorite.
Awesome.
Awesome.
That is a good one. And I guess sure you're going to do
Oh,
the
it's my turn.
next. Yes, you got a product of the year.
So I think as far as because
Bang for the buck. Yeah.
yeah, mobile routers have been such a key product line that has become more and more useful for our audience. And a mobile router allows you to use multiple internet sources at once, whether they're cellular, Wi-Fi as WAN, or bringing in Ethernet sources like T-Mobile Home Internet or Starlink, or even if you do happen to have wired internet at a campsite or that you use at home. But mobile routers have typically been very high priced, especially if you want the enterprise, really professionally produced stuff. And Peplink has become kind of the default awesome answer for a lot of our audience. They're very professional. They serve
A lot of features.
they serve like, police cruisers and disaster relief sort of things. So they have to be solid. And some of their product offerings have been kind of at the high end of consumer level pricing, like $1,000 to $1,200. So they've been within reach for those, especially if you work remotely, you might be able to justify those costs. But they came out with the B1 5G earlier this year, and this is a 5G modem. It's really designed for a small home office, so it's not purpose built for mobility, but it's larger, but it can be used in an RV or a boat situation because we're not, in a police cruiser
Yeah.
usually.
So it set a new kind of bar for bang for the buck in a cellular enabled 5G router.
Right. So at $599, you get a 5G router with a modern 5G modem inside of it. You get multiple Ethernet WAN inputs, so you can do Starlink, T-Mobile Home Internet, or if you've got a hotspot, mobile hotspot that has Ethernet out. It has USB tethering, which is a rare feature on Peplink routers, and it does Wi-Fi as WAN, so you can connect to campground Wi-Fi over it. So for $599, the B1 brings Peplink's enterprise level connectivity options and being able to use things like speed fusion bonding, load balancing, and other options to bring all those options together into a very affordable package. So I think the B1 5G is a game changer for the mobile internet consumer market.
Absolutely. Is a hell of a router, hell of a value. And a lot of fans on our team. Now Dan has got he's already covered like the product of the year in the Starlink
Yeah.
Mini, but we've got a couple other kind of options that have been overlooked that he wants to talk about as products of the year.
Absolutely. Well, I was going to say I have a B1 myself, and I love that router. That is a great router. But another product that is just released in the last 2 weeks, maybe, and still I'm seeing people not realize it, is a DC option for the standard Gen 3. Of course, the Mini came out DC out of the box, but people have been asking for DC options since the first Gen 1, and Starlink never. There was third party, but never anything directly from Starlink. They finally released an actual power brick that is DC input, 12 volt to 48 volt, uses an XT60 plug, which you may not be familiar with, but they're very common. And it allows you to run your standard Gen 3 with a legitimate Starlink, power brick. So if you have any issues, Starlink's going to support you, because any of those third-party options, they would tell you to put it back on the stock option if you were having trouble. This just got released. It's it's $110. It's a little up there, but it keeps you from having to run an inverter to run your Starlink, and for some people, that's really important to them. So,
Yep.
if you got the standard Gen 3, look at the DC, the new DC option for the standard. It's a looks like a great setup. So,
Yeah, and there's plenty of options for the Starlink Mini that we've been seeing too, that to find ways to run it over power over Ethernet and DC and stuff like that. So we're seeing like ways to power Starlink that are much more RV and mobile power system friendly without needing your inverter going on, whatever kind of Starlink you have. So that's definitely some exciting products there.
Right. And then the next one is
Oh.
Roamlink.
Yes, kind of a product of the year. This is a virtual product in a sense. This is we've been tracking multi-carrier SIMs and data plans for a while. That kind of one plan that connects to the best carrier out there. Whether it's T-Mobile, AT&T, or Verizon, supposedly gives you the coverage of all the carriers with one SIM, one device. But for the most part, in the past, these were all tied to particular devices that were very low end and didn't let you kind of bring your own, use those kind of flexible SIMs with a high end router like a Peplink. Um, and this past year, Mobile Must Have did a lot of work to come out with their own plan called RoamLink. That is a plan, a SIM, everything else that you could put into a Peplink router, and that SIM card can connect to and give you a data plan on T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, and US Cellular. So you get like kind of the four big carriers.
And they became official MVNOs, mobile virtual network operators, with the carrier. So these are official contracts with the carriers to
Yes.
provide these planes, unlike a lot of the other ones, which may not be official.
Yeah, so when you're connected, your phone or your device or whatever, if the SIM is in, will actually show RoamLink. It won't show
It's the
the
carrier.
carrier that behind the scenes, because they're acting as a virtual network operator. And I found RoamLink plus Starlink to be an incredibly flexible solution. It kind of almost makes me not feel like I need a dual modem. We're currently broadcasting with a Peplink Max BR2 Pro that has two cellular modems, so I'm connected right now with actually two different T-Mobile plans. One of
So
them
we have
being
an instant
RoamLink.
connect outside, and we got one of
Yeah,
everything.
but like going forward, if I was shopping for a new installation, I would just get a BR1 Pro or maybe a B1 and one cellular modem with RoamLink, and then I could have access to all three carriers, all four carriers, and then combine that with Starlink. You kind of get the two links go together very well, and that way the marketing of it will pick the best carrier is never correct, because it's just going to pick the strongest carrier. But you can manually override and say, no,
Right.
you're guessing T-Mobile, let's try AT&T. Oh, AT&T is actually much better for what I need to do today, which is upload a lot of
And
things.
our next MIRC Live, we will have Eric of Mobile Must Have on, and he will be going in, kind of giving you a behind the scenes look on how these multi carrier plans work and how to optimize them and why they can't automatically pick the best carrier.
Yes.
So join us for our next MIRC Live. That'll be either late January or early February when we do our next one. So
Yeah.
keep an eye out for them when we schedule the next one, because that'll be a really interesting one, I think. And then Andy M., it is your turn for your favorite product of the year
Yeah. Most notable product.
that we haven't covered already.
Yes, and this was an upgrade to the InstiConnect system. Now, for those who don't know, InstiConnect is a small family-run business that provides a cellular connectivity solution that is designed specifically for RVers. It's made by an RVer, again, a small family-run business. And this is a unique system in some ways because it has the uh, cellular modem and antennas in an integrated enclosure that mounts on the RV roof. And then that is connected via Ethernet to an interior router. Well, what happened this fall, is that InstiConnect upgraded their router to a much more powerful router, a brand new user interface, and some new capabilities, the most important of which is bonding. Now, we've talked about bonding before, and that can be an extremely important feature for many people, especially those who need to work on the road and do video conferencing and things like that. And for a long time, really, Peplink was the main game in town because of speed fusion bonding. Well, with the new InstiConnect Gen 2 router that comes with the system, they have integrated Speedify bonding. Now, Speedify is a company that's offered bonding for quite a long time, but their bonding solutions have typically been for combining smartphone or your cellular and Wi-Fi on your smartphone or on your PC. But now they have options that are designed specifically for routers and being embedded on routers. So InstiConnect is the first, at least that we know of, that is offering this Speedify bonding solution that is integrated into their router. And they do have three WAN options that can go along with that: two Ethernet, one from the rooftop InstiConnect system, a second Ethernet option, as well as Wi-Fi as WAN, so you can easily combine up to three WAN options for bonding, reliability, and redundancy. So it's exciting to see some more competition in that space.
Yeah, it is definitely great to see bonding becoming a more and more mainstream accessible technology. When we first started, we did our first tutorials on bonding way back, and it was like we had to just teach people how to set up their own virtual servers and do this and that. It's like huge tutorials of how to set up your own bonding servers and stuff like that. And it kept getting easier and easier over time. Peplink jumped way ahead with Speed Fusion, and now we've always loved Speedify, but it was very kind of limited in how it could apply it if you wanted to have a bonded connection that you shared with a multiple full network full of devices. Now we're starting to see bonding start to get a little bit easier to do, and we love it because if you're doing something like this, a broadcast where you don't want to rely on just a single carrier and single connection, and one glitch could bring you down, bonding multiple connections together is a wonderful tool to have in your arsenal. So we love seeing it going more and more mainstream.
Absolutely. All right, so now we switch to looking into 2025. What are some of our predictions into three major ways that we get online: cellular, satellite, and Wi-Fi? So first, satellite. What are some of your? This is kind of your geek out space.
I do love tracking the space industry. I've been tracking it forever. I mean, that's one of my passions. And coming into 2025, this things are going to get a lot more exciting in space, in the competitive standpoint, because it's basically been a one horse show with Starlink for the longest time. But as we head into 2025, there's a lot of major things that are going to happen. First off, Starlink, SpaceX is going to start launching their Starship, the much, much larger, bigger than a Saturn V, biggest rocket ever launched. They've done 3 test flights now, and early in 2025, they're probably going to start doing some actual commercial launches of their own Starlink version 2 satellite, but a much larger version of it with much more solar power, much more computing processing power on board, much bigger antennas, and much more space for secondary payloads like cellular. So it's going to be really interesting to see what SpaceX is unleashed when they can do much bigger satellites and launch a lot of them at once on Starship. And it's going to take all through the course of 2025 for Starship to go, particularly to get to the point of being reusable and actually being able to land and launch again. But SpaceX doesn't care if it doesn't land, if as long as it's able to launch some Starlink satellites and they keep testing the landing process every time, they'll figure it out over time. And Starship is definitely going to revolutionize space. The other thing coming is Amazon's the first real Starlink competitor is Amazon's Project Kuiper, which has been in the works. We've been covering this for years, and Kuiper is in the queue. They've got the satellites built, they've got the launches booked, and starting in early 2025 and all throughout the year, they're going to start actually launching their satellites. And probably by the end of 2025, they might be in a position to start at least having some beta service, and we might begin to learn what their go-to-market plans and prices are. We've already covered what their small antennas. They already have an equivalent of a Starlink Mini, but they don't have any satellites for it to talk to. So it'll be really interesting to see what Amazon has cooking, and will it be a credible Starlink competitor? Amazon certainly has the money to invest, and well, the rockets are literally queued up to start launching in 2025. And other things coming, there's another company, Space Mobile, that Verizon is investing in to be their direct to sell partner. So another direct to sell player coming online and to go against what T-Mobile is doing, and AT&T is also a partner with Space Mobile, has been even before Verizon joined in. So AT&T and Verizon are kind of having their own horse in the race, and Space Mobile has just started to launch their satellites, and maybe by the end of 2025, they will start being ready to bring out some commercial service. And then Apple, they're the most secretive company in the universe, but it is very known that they are investing a ton of money into Globalstar, which is the company that powered the direct to sell the satellite messaging services on the iPhones since the 14. And so maybe we'll start to see what Apple is working on. They're spending a lot of money to invest in Globalstar's next gen constellation, clearly for a reason, but that maybe we won't know in 2025 or not. But again, there's going to be a lot of racing to space to keep an eye on in
Yeah.
2025.
So good job keeping that to under 2 minutes or 3 minutes. If
There's
you
a lot to watch.
if you enjoy satellite updates, Chris will be coming out sometime probably in early 2025. His satellite industry update, and it's usually a 35 to 40-minute video because he'll dive deep into all of this stuff. So stay
Yes.
tuned to that.
And,
We're watching the industry very closely before we put out
and
that
anybody
update.
else has got satellite things they're excited about in the future here?
All right. So next is what is the state of cellular? Do you want to cover that? Or do you want to let a team member take that?
We could all take it. Anybody else? I like to track the future. That's the things I get excited.
That's so. If you don't know, Chris's background is he used to work for Palm, like the old Palm Pilot. He was their chief spy. It was his job to track where mobile technology was going and track the future of what
And
they should
5
be
to
doing.
10 years out. So
Yeah.
it's
So
always fun.
this is his special space. So, um, you want to
So
give a cellular update?
I
You
could
just
give
want
it,
to keep
yeah,
going?
yeah, I could just keep going. So the quick cellular update for 2025 is, cellular 5G has kind of reached maturity in a lot of ways, and it's 5G has gotten great. The coverage maps are expanding pretty nicely. Performance can be pretty amazing if you've got a recent modem. So yeah, like we find, like like our current connection, we're primarily over cellular, even though Starlink is here. The cellular is running circles around Starlink, and that seems to be the case in a lot of where we go. Um, but what's kind of some of the interesting things that are coming in 2025 is millimeter wave 5G was always the fastest. It was like what the carriers would point to when they wanted to show off, like, hey, here's multi-gigabit speeds over cellular using these super high frequency signals called millimeter wave. Um, and we've noticed over the last several years, the carriers have stopped expanding their millimeter wave networks very much, and Verizon in particular, who was the most aggressive with millimeter wave, is slowed down as well. And now the rumors are pointing to that Apple is going to be bringing out their own 5G modems in their starting in their phones next year, and they're actually dropping millimeter wave. And they've dropped millimeter wave support from the recent iPads, and we kind of suspect we're going to see a lull in of millimeter wave is just going to be ignored for a next year or two or three before it starts to matter again, because there's enough mid-band 5G capacity that the carriers can get multi-gigabit speeds out of mid-band, which doesn't require an expensive antenna module and all this expensive electronics on the modem. So that's kind of one of the things I'm tracking on the cellular front is millimeter wave was required from 5G. Verizon wouldn't certify a device that didn't have millimeter wave support on it for a long time. I think now millimeter wave is going to be kind of ignored and will make a comeback in a couple of years. So that's kind of an interesting thing. And then there's a 5G Advanced, which is, we're seeing that with the X72 and 75 modems, or the next generation of cellular modems. We'll probably see them in routers. We've seen them in one hotspot that Andy M has actually already been testing. It's the next generation of cellular standards that will, let things go faster. And we'll start seeing more and more 5G Advanced as the marketing term devices come out next year.
All right. And as far as Wi-Fi, as far as receiving Wi-Fi, long distance Wi-Fi, there's really no changes. I mean, Wi-Fi 7
It's
is
going to be a big deal.
it's a new standard for your local area network. It's not we're not anticipating that campgrounds and marinas are going to be installing Wi-Fi 7 networks anytime soon. So there's nothing to be concerned there with
Yes.
connectivity. So, but as far as Wi-Fi 7, Andy Hall or Andy McNabb, either of you want to chime in on Wi-Fi 7?
Yeah, I could say a couple of things. I've actually just recently installed a Wi-Fi 7 router, and so I've been playing around with it. And if you look into our guides, I track like frequencies and the bandwidth and all these things. And so Wi-Fi 7 expands into the 6 gigahertz. It actually goes beyond in the 6 gigahertz. Set of blocks, and it quadruples the bandwidth that's there. In my testing so far, I'm not seeing like crazy great performance beyond say just your just a Wi-Fi 6. So I have a Wi-Fi 6E devices, so I'm not taking advantage of the aggregation between the 2.4, the 5 gigahertz, and the 6 gigahertz. And so I expect when that getting some of those devices and when these routers get updated, it's the same. It's like doing a MIMO connection through a cellular, or having multiple connections through your cellular. You're being able to pull all that in. And so I'm looking for this next year and beyond for a lot more of these devices to come out. The other thing, and a little bit going into the antenna side of things, where I'm starting to see antennas that are supporting the six, that basically that band, that Wi-Fi 7. And I'm hoping that some of the Wi-Fi antennas improve, because I've dabbled a little bit this last year on trying to test some Wi-Fi, the built-in Wi-Fi antennas. And I'm finding you're better off. Most cellular antennas now support 600 to 6,000 megahertz, which is the Wi-Fi
Covers Wi-Fi.
frequencies. Yeah. and I find the cellular antennas, you take a dome antenna and you hook up the cellular antenna, you make do your conversion to the Wi-Fi connection, and you'll have way better performance with the cellular antenna than you will with the built-in Wi-Fi antennas. So more to come there,
All
and I
right.
think too we'll have less congestion in RV parks and the likes. So
Yeah.
That would be an
Okay.
awesome thing. All
But
right, so I
now,
think we can move into answering some questions now that we finally finished the pre-scheduled stuff. Sorry that went a little bit longer than I thought.
hey, yeah, we got a lot to talk about, and you get geeks together. But yeah, I'm gonna start going through here and see what sort of questions have already been popped in the chat, and we've got a lot of people who've been following us for a long time. And one question here is, what internet are you all using right now?
Oh,
And
that could be a whole nother episode of this.
so for us who are hosting the broadcast, I'm currently broadcasting over a bonded connection with a Peplink BR2 Pro with two cellular connections. There, one is a Roam Link that is chosen T-Mobile, and the other one is our direct T-Mobile plan, because we got really great T-Mobile here. And oftentimes in 5G world, T-Mobile is the leader and has some amazing performance. I'm seeing 300 or 400 megabits down on each connection, and our aggregate speed was 20, 30 megabits up, even faster. Starlink is in the mix, but is being the Starlink performance is not even being tapped into by the bonding, because we've got some trees over us a little bit, and the
We're on a 50 gigabyte plan. We just
and
use it as
yeah,
backup.
and yeah, we're only using it for a broadcast like this, just in case
We
T-Mobile
are
happens to
using
go
the
down.
mini. We are
And
using
we
the
use the
mini
Starlink
dish
Mini.
now. So.
But yeah, we have all the carriers. We can change things around. We love having the plans that let us be flexible like
Yeah,
that.
in our antennas on the roof, we've got the Peplink Mobility 42G for one of the modems, and we have the Parsec Akita, which is on a pole in the back of the van. So,
Okay.
let's see, Andy Hull is currently on hotel Wi-Fi. Andy McNabb is on home internet. Not of interest. Dan, what are you using right now?
I've got all the cellular. My Starlink is paused. I'm probably T-Mobile and Verizon are really good where I'm at, so I'm probably mixed between those. I've got four things bonded together right now, so
Nice.
I've got Roam Link, which is probably on T-Mobile also. So
That is the thing. Is like so many people think Starlink can be their only thing, but so many people are actually using it, often to keep their Starlink paused or on a minimal plan, because it's
We actually haven't used it. This is the first. We just got the Starlink Mini that Dan was testing earlier this year. He shipped it to us. We just moved back into the van a few weeks ago. We just got it installed like last week. This is the first time we have actually used Starlink this year. The cellular is so rock solid on
on
the
the
East
East Coast.
Coast
Yeah.
that Starlink just isn't needed where we go.
Yes, but
So
we love having that option when it is useful. So
right.
it is great to have in the arsenal, but it is not the be all. It is
Mhm.
definitely not what some
Yeah.
people think. Um,
We covered that.
okay,
We did a
signed up
whole
for the
section on
beta.
it.
Okay. Oh, WeBoost. This is actually kind of an end of the era. Whatever happened to WeBoost, the
So we
cellular boosters?
so WeBoost is a cellular booster. The LTE version came out shortly after MIRC launched in 2014. The FCC approved it. All of the cellular, so what a cellular booster does is it uses a single antenna that you usually mount outside as an amplification box that electronically amplifies that signal. And then on an interior antenna, it rebroadcasts that cellular signal. And any cellular device, cell phone, iPads, tablets, or hotspots or routers, anything that's in range of that interior antenna gets that boosted signal. What has happened with boosters is as LTE and 5G have progressed to using MIMO, which is multiple antennas, um, boosters have become less and less relevant. First of all, the FCC restricts boosters to only using 6 frequency bands. There are now, Andy, how many frequency bands do we have in cellular? Like 30?
It's a
Yeah,
lot of
a
bands.
lot.
yeah, at
Um,
least 30. Yeah.
yeah, so a lot of cellular bands that we have to use, and only 6 of them are covered by cellular boosters by FCC regulation, so they become less important. And then you combine in MIMO of, so you get a cellular antenna with multiple antennas on the outside going to a cellular router. You're going to get much better performance than a booster, which is broadcasting just a single antenna and just broadcasting ones. It's like having a megaphone on one voice versus having 4 ears. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a we
So,
have a whole bunch of videos of
yeah, so
MIMO
so
versus
so
cellular.
there's always a, like, people say, oh, cellular boosters are so pushed, and actually we've been the voice pushing against cellular boosters for years, about saying,
Yeah.
so often, because they say you'll get more bars when you turn a booster on, and you will, because the signal's amplified and it's louder. But oftentimes, if you actually test your performance, if you're concerned about data performance, you turn on a booster oftentimes your performance gets cut in half. It's, the booster actually hurts your performance. And we've done this demo
We have
over and over and
several
over for
videos
years
out on
saying
it.
boosters are really useful in a very tiny number of places. And I think
For cellular data,
for
for a cell phone voice service,
it can be useful.
they can be useful. But really, if you have solid cellular signal or Starlink, use Wi-Fi over voice
Voice over
over
Wi-Fi,
Wi-Fi.
right? So we keep teaching people. It's like, a booster. We have one with us in the van. I think last year we used the booster
Zero
zero times.
times.
The year before we used it for like one or two places.
Yeah.
It's. I wouldn't buy one, but I don't mind having one. And every so often, if we're like in a really remote place and it's under trees where Starlink wouldn't help, maybe the booster will help. Like the last time I remember having a good useful booster experience was on the Blue Ridge Parkway in a really remote campsite. But overall, it's been years
Yeah,
that we've
they're
been
just
telling people
really not worth carrying anymore. Get a good router
multiple cell plans.
with multiple cellular plans and a good cellular antenna on the external. You will do much better than a cellular booster if data is your stuff.
And we have a question about the Insti Connect Gen 2. They're feeling stuck with the data service costs and they want a less expensive cellular. Well, the Insti Connect lets you use
Any data plan. So
data plan.
I
So
would go to our top data plan picks guide, which is at rvmobileinternet.com/plan picks. You will find all of our current top data plan picks there. And our most current video, which was done just a few months ago, that goes over all the current data plan picks. As long as it's not a plan that's restricted to a certain device, you should be able to use it on your Insti Connect. And that follows into a next question that I saw is, will we be doing an updated video, which we called it the State of the Union? Yeah, okay. So a few times a year, I do a video going over the top data plans. We did put out the last one. I think Wendy looked up that it was August that I put the last one out. And I just looked at our feed. There's been no data plan changes since then. So I will not put out a new video until the information is not relevant anymore and there's enough to update on, because those videos take a lot of effort to put together. They come out to be about 20-25 minutes, and I have to put a lot of information in this noggin to get that out on camera.
But the important thing is the plan picks page does get
Yes.
updated immediately when plans change. So, definitely reference the plan picks page. The videos might lag a little bit behind and wait for enough changes to accumulate before we'll film a new major video. Jason thanks us for all we do for the community. We always appreciate that, whether people say it. The best way you can appreciate us is tell other people about MIRC. Spread the word, because we do not do marketing. We don't do advertising.
And keep in mind, we're not funded by advertising, sponsorships. We do some affiliate, but we are not dependent on it at all. It is our member support, our premium members, our mobile internet aficionados who make this all possible through their annual subscription fees. And for that, they get additional resources. They get interactive guidance from our entire team that you see here in our forums. We have regular webinars with interactive questions with them every single month, where they can ask questions and we'll dive deep in with them. They have access to our in-depth educational content, our reviews and hands-on testing notes with the equipment that we're working with, and they get discounts with the vendors. So instead of affiliates, we don't do affiliates with our members. Our members get those discounts passed on to them, and that can exceed the cost of membership.
Particularly if you're buying a high-end router like a Peplink BR2, you're like so scoring by having a membership.
Yeah. So to consider becoming a member, you can learn more about membership at rvmobileinternet.com. We are running a holiday special through the end of the year. For MIRC Live, you can always save $10 off a membership using the MIRC Live if you've been to one of these events. But through the end of the year, we actually are having a $20 off sale, and you'll see the code printed at the top of every single page of the site.
As long as you got a few more weeks left to get that special discount there.
Yep.
So now we see a few more questions have popped up here. Somebody, Dob is asking about the residential Starlink offering roaming but can't cancel. I think they're referring to the
adding on the mini for $50 a month. But yeah, so that was, or it's $30 a month. So that was a special introductory offer they had when the mini first came out. It was only available to residential customers. They could add it on for $30 a month. They discontinued that when they rolled out mini universally to everybody, and offered the $50 a month option. So if you have that $30 a month add-on, if you cancel it, you can't get the $30 back.
Dan is trying to chime into something.
They did bring that back. That offer is back again, but it's still invite only, as far as I know.
Okay.
Or
they may be talking about the having the old residential plan and being able to roam like the one you have.
Yeah, like the portability, where they were going with that. Yeah. So.
Basically, if you happen to be grandfathered in the few times Starlink has ever grandfathered anything in, If you cancel it, you're not going to be able to get it back.
Yes,
That's the same with any cellular carrier or any data plan. If you have a legacy plan and you cancel it, well, that's part of grandfathering and you lose it.
there's somebody commenting, Jason commenting on the BR2 Pro, which is a really great router. It is expensive though, and yeah, it doesn't have well, it has gigabit Ethernet, but it doesn't have multi-gigabit Ethernet on all the ports. Only one of the ports is 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, and it doesn't have PoE built in. And again, I agree, those are things that for that price I would have loved to see a little bit more capability, because that is a very expensive router. It is a flagship. It is great.
$28.99. It's super expensive.
Yes.
Yes. There may be.
There might be updates to the PR2 in the
But
new
it's
year.
expensive to update just for those features.
Yes, yes. Nobody is asking about the band N77, which is a major band being used by Verizon for a lot of their mid-band 5G that is super fast. And there's been some words about the plan being throttled to 30 megabits per second, or that band being throttled to 30 megabits per second on certain older plans, like the prepaid UDP. I did some testing on that a couple months ago, and I was not able to witness that, but I've also seen some credible reports of people having seen that.
But keep in mind that these legacy plans do not officially include mid-band 5G, so that you're getting it at all is actually a bonus.
Yeah, so there are sometimes some weird things with those plans. Oftentimes I'm still like, we use our ancient grandfathered UDP, even older than the PUDP. And I'm kind of blown away that this ancient plan is sometimes, I've seen like 800 megabits per second on occasion. It's like crazy that this plan still has some 5G features like that.
Okay.
That's not relevant. Okay, so yeah. Okay. 5G LTE is starting to shift to 5G. And
Sneed Mobile's here. Yay!
Oh, hey, Sneed Mobile is
another tech enthusiast on YouTube that we actually watch your content too.
Yes, Sneed is a great channel to follow. They do some really good stuff on YouTube. And let's see. Yeah, so I guess this came up twice. Is we are actually, this is kind of a story to watch for the year ahead. Is we are reaching the age where some 4G spectrum will start to be turned into 5G spectrum, which means 4G devices might start losing coverage and performance as that spectrum gets put to better use. As the carriers see more and more of the percentage of devices on their network being 5G native devices, it makes sense to basically pave over the old dirt tracks with interstates, but the 4G devices will lose that coverage. So it's been about over a year that it has made sense to start really thinking about being in 5G universe. If 4G it's going to be around for a long time. 4G was not going to have a hard cutoff like 3G did. 4G will continue to be supported for a long time, but it's going to get slower. Coverage might get diminished. It's going to be the secondary carrier to 5G, and get on 5G. The networks have gotten great. So, and get on with a modern device that can really take advantage of them. So yeah, that's it. And then Dob confirmed, I think, that we got the
residential Starlink used to be able to turn off and on roaming. So that was the portability feature that you used to be able to turn that on and off and that was discontinued many years ago and is no longer offered. So once you turn it off, you can no longer get it back. If you added it and not be charged. I understand if you add roam, you must keep it on. So what you can do now, the way the current plans work, is you can switch between residential and roam and switch back from roam to residential. It's no longer an add-on feature.
Yes, but you cannot, if you give up that portability feature, it is
if you
gone.
had it before. So Dan still uses it on his plans. But that went away many, many years ago.
And I think we are caught up with questions, and it has been an hour, just over an hour. And we had fun geeking out. So if this was fun to have, so many geeks on one live stream, let us know. Give us a thumbs up, comment, and tell us that this is enjoyable. We'll keep this as a possibility for future
Yep.
MIRC Lives.
And yeah, we'll continue doing the MIRC Lives into the next year. Like I said, the next one will be sometime in late January, early February. We'll have Eric of Mobile Must Have joining us to talk about multi-carrier cellular data plans and how they work behind the scenes.
He's gone through a lot of hoops to figure out how
And
to set
then,
those
yeah,
up.
we'll come up with other topics to cover. We usually have one of our team members on joining us, or we'll get another industry expert on to join us. We'll pick topics. Sometimes they're topical. Sometimes they're questions that we're getting a lot. If there are questions you want to see us cover, feel free to comment on this video, and we'll consider it for a future episode. Do look at the past episodes we did this year. We did one on T-Mobile Home Internet. We did one on Starlink Mini versus standard
Performance, yeah.
We did one against the Starlink Gen 3 versus Gen 2. We did one on we did a 5-month road trip, and we covered what worked best over 45 different locations. We did that at the beginning of the year as well.
And yeah, I think we're going to wrap it. There's one more question did come up, but I think we're just going to wrap it up now because we've covered enough tonight. But again, and any questions that anybody has comes up, if you're a member, go into our member forums. We dive in deep. We'll go as novice or geeky as you want. And so our member forums can have some really fun conversations. So please join us over there. And otherwise, I think we are going to wrap this up for tonight, right? So everybody, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Andy, and Dan, for joining us. Thank you, Wendy, for fielding the chat room.
And yeah, and everybody have a happy holiday season and a wonderful new year. Where most of our team is taking we're going to go down to minimal coverage of breaking news mode for the till the end of the year and enjoy a little bit of family times and stuff. But we are always keeping track of news and stuff like that, so you'll never know when we might pop up on YouTube. So see you everybody, and take care.